Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, The Legends of the Ferengi, by me, Quark, as told to Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolfe. Let's get one thing clear. My esteemed publisher paid me to record my book, which I did. Well, actually, I didn't record all of it. I jobbed out parts of it to a couple of fat-lobe Ferengi named Gala and Kono. Actually, it's not really my book. I jobbed the writing out to a couple of fathead humans named Bear and Wolf. But the point is, no one got paid to write and record an introduction. That my publisher wants for free. And now I have to do this myself. Life is so unfair. Anyway, here it is, the introduction. Everything you need to know to enjoy my classic audiobook. Ferengi, natives of the planet Ferenginar, a short, wily, magnificently lobed spacefaring people. A picture of these strikingly handsome folk can be found on the box this audiobook came in. The one with the sexy lobes is none other than myself. Rules of acquisition. The 285 guiding principles that form the basis of Ferengi business philosophy. That's a direct quote from my previous book, The Ferengi Rules of Acquisition, by Quark, as told to Ira Stephen Bear. Still available in a bookstore near you. Legends of the Ferengi. A collection of stories, fables, philosophical meditations, and outright lies based on the Ferengi rules of acquisition, just like it says on the cover. Well, there you go. The introduction, by me, Quark, son of Keldar, proprietor of Quark's Bar, Grill, Gaming House, and Holosuite Arcade, a wholly owned subsidiary of Quark Enterprises, Inc. I hope you liked it. Now, on to the good stuff. I really hate working for free. Rule number 1. In the village of Noi, there once lived a shopkeeper named Ob. Though his shop was small, he was well known for his many eccentricities. Chief among them was his insistence on honesty in all things.
My goods are of the finest quality. My prices are fair and reasonable, and my weighing scales are accurate to 1/1000th of a milliop. I am, needless to say, the least popular man in the village. Most of what I sell, I buy myself, like these tube grubs.
One morning, Ob was seated behind the counter when a customer entered. This was quite an event, since no one in Noi would shop at the store of such an obvious lunatic.
Come in, come in. You must be new around here. Do you really want to buy something? Yes, of course. I've got a long way to go, and I'm in a hurry to get there. 1 canister of beetle snuff for the road. Large. Beetle snuff? Oh, there's a can of it here somewhere. Where are you headed? Corpa. Quite a ways, Corpa. There, 1 large canister of the top-quality beetle snuff. That's 13 strips of latinum. Aren't you going to count it? No need. I can see you have trustworthy lobes. Takes a lobe to know a lobe. What's your name, stranger? Greb. Greb of Corpa.
It was a full half-hour later, when Obe was closing out the day's accounts, that he discovered that Greb had overpaid him by a half slip of Latin.
12, 12 and 1/2, 13, 13 and 1/2. Oh, no! I've got to catch Greb and return this half slip or my name isn't honest Obe. What did he say? Corpa, wasn't it?
Obe was never to reach his destination. Halfway to Corpa, he was set upon and brutally murdered by assassins hired by none other than Greb. It seems the man from Corpa had been carrying on a secret affair with Obe's wife for several years. Shortly after the funeral, Greb moved into Obe's house, married his wife, and took over his store, where he made a fortune overcharging his customers for inferior merchandise.
Get in line. You'll all get your turn.
Legend has it that the townspeople of Noy, wanting to make an example of Obe's foolishness, decided to bury the shopkeeper with the half slip of latinum that he had so desperately wanted to return. Unfortunately, someone, probably Greb, stole the latinum out of Obe's hand during the funeral. From the sad tale of Obe came the first rule of acquisition. Once you have their money, you never give it back. Rule number 9. Grand Negus Freck was the pioneer of Ferengi econosolipsistic mathematics. He wrestled with setting down the universal formulas that describe the fundamental building blocks of reality. What you are about to hear is an excerpt from his personal ledger.
All right. Opportunism plus latinum equals nirvana. Latinum plus beetle snuff equals clear sinuses. Greed minus morality equals happiness. Greed is greater than love. Profit equals greed. Profit equals everything. Profit equals happiness. No, none of those are right. Wealth plus unhappiness equals null space, since wealth equals happiness, and, well, happiness plus or minus happiness equals 0. Instinct minus opportunity equals misery. Yes. Opportunity plus instinct equals profit. Now I've got it. That's quite good.
This is the first ever record of the 9th rule of acquisition. Opportunity plus instinct equals profit. As you humans would say, Eureka. Rule number 10. When the scribes of the sacred illuminated balance sheet were about to put out their commemorative 1000th edition, they approached Grand Negus Brolock and they asked him to provide a parable, some little story, to illustrate the 10th rule of acquisition. Brolock pocketed the customary bribe, thought for a moment, and then spoke the following words of wisdom.
Some rules need no explanation.
By taking the amount of the scribe's bribe and calculating it out on a per-word basis, this 5-word observation earned Brolock the distinction of uttering the most expensive words in Ferengi history. This demonstrated Brolock's complete mastery of the 10th rule of acquisition. Greed is eternal. This edifying story. Wait a minute, Rom. I said hold the echoes. That's what happens when you try to make a few strips of latinum by getting the publisher to hire your brother as an audio engineer. Oh, get out of the way. Let me do it. This edifying story. There. That's better. This edifying story about Grand Nagus Brolock became its own parable to illustrate the Ferengi saying, avarice never dies. And if it's really lucky, it gets to be Grand Nagus. Rule number 13. The 13th rule of acquisition is easily remembered by comparing 13 things worth doing for money with 13 things not worth doing for money. Here's the list of 13 things worth doing for money. Number 1. Jump up and down on one foot until your hip bone is pounded into dust. Number 2. Lie to your boss. Number 3. Tell your boss the truth. Number 4. Help a rich old Ferengi across the street. Number 5. Shove a rich old Ferengi into traffic. Number 6. Sell people ground-up beetles and convince them to snort them up their noses. Number 7. Stick stuff in your ears. Number 8. Stick stuff in other people's ears. Number 9. Create your own religion. Number 10. Spread vicious rumors about your enemies. Number 11, spread vicious rumors about your friends. Number 12, spread vicious rumors about yourself. Number 13, hang out with Klingons. Got that? Now, here's the list of 13 things not worth doing for money. Number 1, nothing. Number 2, nothing. Number 3, nothing. Number 4, nothing. Well, you get the point. There's not one thing, much less 13 things, not worth doing for money. Remember this and never forget the 13th rule of acquisition. Anything worth doing is worth doing for money. Rule number 16. The following is a standard rider attached to any quotation of the 16th rule of acquisition. Before listening to this rule, raise your right hand to your left lobe and your left hand to your right lobe and recite the following sacred Ferengi oath. I, Quark, of course you would use your own name, do hereby swear to never, under any circumstances, correctly quote this rule to any non-Ferengi. Furthermore, I swear, under penalty of eternal bankruptcy, that even under the most extreme duress, even if a Cardassian is doing unspeakable things to my lobes, I will maintain that the 16th rule of acquisition, the most sacred of all Ferengi precepts, is a deal is a deal. Period. No further stipulation, no extra clause. That's the rule. Anything else you might have heard is purely rumor. Thank you. You may now hear the 16th rule of acquisition, which is, of course, a deal is a deal. Until a better one comes along. Rule number 19. Now it's time for a pop quiz. Place your bets. Place your bets. What are the first 2 words any Ferengi learns in the human language? Need a clue? Think back to rule number 1. Can't think of it? You heard it at the beginning of this audiobook. Weren't you listening? Oh, I'm sorry. Time's up. You not only forfeit your bet, but you have to pay a forgetfulness fine of 3 slips of latinum, or whatever you've got in your pocket, whichever is more. What are the first 2 words any Ferengi learns in the human language? No Refunds. And that includes, by the way, what you paid for this audiobook. This should help you remember the 19th rule of acquisition, which can be found printed on literally every item manufactured on Ferenginar. Since this is an audiobook, I'll tell you what it is. The 19th rule of acquisition is satisfaction is not guaranteed. Rule number 21. Here's an excerpt from the ancient medical audio disc, Guarding Your Investment, Keeping Your Children Profitable, by Dr. Posk of the Ferengi Wellness Institute.
In our last chapter, we dealt with the problem of excessive, compulsive ooh-moxing in male children, ages 1 to 17. Now we must turn our attention to one of the most stressful events in any young Ferengi's life, the attainment ceremony. Parents, relax, it's all right. Rest assured that the ceremony is largely a formality. When given the choice between spending time with a friend or receiving a bar of gold-pressed latinum, no Ferengi lad in recent history has passed up the bar. Your son will make that right choice, too. All we suggest is that you make sure that the ceremony is held in a well-lit room, that both the friend and the bar of latinum are equidistant from your child, that the friend is strapped down and gagged to allow an unbiased outcome, and that the bar of latinum is placed at an angle that makes it as shiny as possible. Now, we highly discourage the use of the southern Ferenginar version of the attainment ceremony. Now, while watching your child and his best friend actually fight over the bar of latinum may be entertaining and profitable when you run the betting pool, injuries are frequent and can be costly with regard to the long-term growth of your investment. One final piece of advice. If your child fails the test, don't tell anyone. Just bribe everyone present to forget what they've seen and have your son repeat the test as many times as necessary until he gets it right. Good luck.
This excerpt from Posk's centuries-old text, still available for purchase at your local discmonger, shows that even from the beginning of Ferengi history, our people knew the fundamental truth of the 21st rule of acquisition. Never place friendship above profit. I would be remiss if I didn't offer my own advice about raising your basic family investments to a profitable status. This advice is free of charge, I might add, because my publisher said I had to include something extra in this audiobook so that you'd buy it, even though it's an abridged version of the published book, which I'd like to take this opportunity to point out is still available at your local bookstore. Follow this advice, and you will raise profitable children. Greed isn't genetic. It has to be learned. Teach your children well. Rule number 33. Upon great and profitable reflection, I think it's the right moment to share with you a letter I sent to my publisher. To my beloved publisher, it is with much pleasure that I thank you for the latinum delivered to me as an advance on the forthcoming audiobook Legends of the Ferengi. In return, I am delighted to deliver this, the commentary on the 33rd rule of acquisition. I'd like this opportunity to say, for the record, what an honor it's been to work for you. To say that your treatment of me has been fair and equitable would be a vast understatement. I am in awe of your fairness, your good judgment, and your business acumen. I also think you are as attractive as you are wise. Your lobal cartilage is truly magnificent, and the texture of your nose wrinkles denotes a wealth of olfactory instinct. Please note that when I said I was being paid less than a starving vole merchant and I wouldn't record this book if you held a phaser to my head, It was just a jocular expression of good fellowship. Subsequent remarks that your royalty statements were steaming stacks of lying worm dung were made while I was recovering from a severe ear infection and under prescribed medication. And so I end this missive groveling in the hope that you will find my meager vocalizing fit for reproduction and further financial remuneration. May your audiobook empire continue to grow, and may your latinum shine forever. Respectfully yours, Quark, son of Keldar. Just a reminder from the people who brought you the 33rd rule of acquisition. It never hurts to suck up to the boss. Rule number 48. Every culture is faced with the necessity of teaching its children about the dangers of real life. In most societies, these lessons are taught by telling horror stories, featuring some nightmarish figure, the boogeyman of Earth, the Klingons' keeper of the dishonored dead, or the nameless traitor of Cardassia. On Ferenginar, this figure is the smiling partner. Ferengi children lose many a good night's sleep, cowering in fear at the thought of this terrible creature. Though the stories vary, its modus operandi is always the same. The smiling partner pretends to be your friend.
Of course, it's a perfect deal, and it's perfect for you. I mean, I'm losing my head skirt and just giving it away. I know, you've been told over and over again since you were a lobling, acquire. And here's your chance. A real bargain. You'll do your father proud, and more important, you'll make yourself rich.
The smiling partner is generous. He's likable, and he's sympathetic to your needs, and of course, he always smiles. But then, the moment after you sign the contract, those smiling teeth turn into razor-sharp blades that crunch down on your lobes and tear them from your head, and as you lie there, blood pouring from the stumps of your ears, the smiling partner laughs. Oh, it's no wonder that no Ferengi child ever forgets the 48th rule of acquisition. The bigger the smile, the sharper the knife. Which reminds me of my own rule of business etiquette that furthers the acquisition of everything a customer owns. Cultivate a grin that melts your customer's lobes. Rule number 48. The other day, I found this posting on the Ferengi Commodities Exchange on the desiccated collectibles market and pressed the play button.
Offered 35 discs of vacuum-desiccated Flink, famous hollow performer dead at 50. World-renowned star of the wildly popular Swamp King series, found dead in notorious Kefkan accommodation house of beetle snuff overdose. Grand Negus Zek declares day of mourning for actor voted 7 years in a row sexiest lobes on Ferenginar. Winner of the Golden Lobe for his performance in Privateer of the Swampways, the first of the Swamp King series. Credited with giving the Swamp King both his swashbuckling style and his famous catchphrase, "Never ask when you can take." Please note, due to his indulgent lifestyle, there is an extremely limited supply of Flink available. Regretfully, much of the mass was too deteriorated to withstand proper desiccation. So buy now, while there's still some Flink left, and you too can be a Swamp King. Caution. Unusually high levels of worm wine, beetle snuff, dextromethametrohebalazine, and other contaminants present in his remains make Flink highly combustible. Please keep discs away from open flames.
Flink may be gone. In fact, he's been gone a very long time. But his remains have been immortalized, along with his most famous line, which is the 52nd rule of acquisition. Never ask when you can take. Rule number 59. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to answer a few of the letters I received after the publication of my runaway bestseller, still available in bookstores, The Ferengi Rules of Acquisition. Here's a typical example. Dear Quark, you are such a wise man. I was hoping you could give me some advice. I've inherited several thousand bars of latinum and don't know what to do with it. Can you help me? Signed, Pockets Full of Latinum. Oh, dear Pockets. My advice to you is simple. Hire me as your investment broker for a tiny fraction of your profits, not to exceed 50%. I will manage your entire portfolio. I do this because I am a kind man, and you are very, very deserving of my help. I guarantee by the time I'm done, you will never have to worry about your latinum again. Yours in profit, Quark. Another. Dear Quark, I'm dating a beautiful and insatiable Betazoid woman. No matter what I do, and I do a lot, it never seems to be enough. I love her very much, but I don't seem to be able to satisfy her. You showed so much wisdom in your best-selling book, The Ferengi Rules of Acquisition, still available in bookstores, that I am confident that you will be able to advise me in this matter. What should I do? Signed, Unlucky in Love. Dear Unlucky, oh, I feel your pain. Enclosed, please find a prepaid ticket to Deep Space Nine. As soon as you receive it, give it to your girlfriend and send her to me. Don't wait. Do it now. Okay. Is she gone? Good. I await her. I promise you, she will not leave this station without achieving a state of complete and utter satisfaction. No matter how long it takes, no matter how much experimentation required, I will find a way to end her suffering, and yours as well. Rest assured, she'll be in good hands. Your humble servant, Quark. Please keep those cards and letters coming. What better way for me to illustrate the 59th rule of acquisition? Free advice is seldom cheap. And humans say talk is cheap. If they only knew. Rule number 62. As we all know, the leading cause of death on Ferengi remains accidental vehicular collision. This has been true for hundreds of years. Well, barring the snail steak food poisoning epidemic of 11,902. And this will doubtless be true for hundreds more. People often ask, are Ferengi really that inept when it comes to vehicular navigation? I mean, how hard is it to control a skimmer? Frankly, it's pretty easy. Yet the skimmer death toll continues to mount. And I can sum up the problem in one word. Ferengi road design. Okay, that's 3 words, but it's one thought. Take, for example, the most heavily traveled skimmerway on Ferenginar. Skimmer Interchange 405, just outside West Wormwood. I'll let you in on a well-known secret. The loops and hairpin turns of this interchange clearly form the ideograms, drink Sluggo-Cola, it's good for you. Subliminal marketeers for the Yan Corporation determined centuries ago that frequently traveled skimmer routes became imprinted on the driver's brain. So, what better way to increase product awareness than to make the very roads themselves advertising logos? Sluggo Cola, who pioneered this technique, used it to completely take over the soft drink market from Ilvasser, their closest competitor. Unfortunately, the tricky turn required to complete the ideogram for slug has proven almost impossible to navigate on a rainy day. And it rains almost every day on Ferengi. Still, subsidies from Sluggo Cola have made the Ferengi Skimmerway Construction Department one of the most well-endowed public trusts on all of Ferenginar, and it's hard to argue with success, know what I mean? So, drink Sluggo Cola. Just watch out for that last turn. And remember the 60-second rule of acquisition. The riskier the road, the greater the profit. Rule number 75. Ferengi don't usually discuss this with outsiders, but even now, in the great age of space travel, Ferengi don't really like to leave home. For one thing, it's hard to get good tube grubs off-world, and even though the weather on Ferenginar may leave something to be desired, it is consistent. Besides, when you get right down to it, most known cultures insist that their females be clothed and allowed to speak. In fact, for centuries, it was nearly impossible to get Ferengi to leave their silent, naked wives and wriggling, well-stocked larders and head into space. This resulted in the great overpopulation crisis of 18123, when it was said that no raindrops ever hit the ground because there were so damn many Ferengi heads in the way. Then, one day, a rumor spread that a Ferengi prospector named Mad Zook had found massive deposits of latinum on the distant world of Chimera Pi. Soon Ferengi homes everywhere bore the sign, "Gone to Chimera," and it wasn't long thereafter that rumors of other mother lodes on even more distant planets drifted back to Ferenginar. Eventually, the rumors were traced back to the Ferengi Office of Population Control, but by then it was too late. Hundreds of millions of Ferengi had sought their fortunes in space. And when they got there, they discovered an interesting thing. Aliens. Or, in the Ferengi parlance, Gublatrop Yobs, which literally translates into bank accounts without brains. Because let's face it, on Ferenginar, the only people you can try to exploit are other Ferengi. And they're a suspicious, thrifty, economically savvy bunch who are just as likely to be the exploiters as the exploited. Too often, negotiations between Ferengi end up in stalemates. But Gublatrop Yobs, that's another story. So, maybe Mad Zook was a figment of the government's imagination, and maybe there's no Chimera Pi. But as long as there's a Gublatrop Yob born every 21 billionth of a second, then Ferengi will travel to the stars. Thus, there's more than a grain of truth to the 75th rule of acquisition. Home is where the heart is, but the stars are made of latinum. Rule number 76. It's said that humor doesn't translate. Take, for instance, comedy entertainments produced on Earth, with the exception of the universally recognized comic genius of the Three Stooges. Ferengi find humans humorless, dour, sanctimonious boobs who are more fun to laugh at than laugh with. So, when I describe Ferengi humor, I will understand if other species scratch their collective heads. Let's take, for example, the two greatest comedians of Ferenginar during the golden age of silly bwahahas. See, already I can tell you're not getting this. Gormy Gormatop, famous for his comic character Clang the Incontinent Klingon, and Durf, son of Dorf, who left them rolling in the aisles with his on-the-mark portrayal of Schlork, the stuttering Vulcan. To this day, every Ferengi instantly recognizes their famous taglines. First, here's Gormy doing Clang, the incontinent Klingon.
I will kill you where you stand. But first I must visit waste extraction.
A riot, huh? Now, here's Durf doing Schlork, the stuttering Vulcan.
That's not. That's not logical.
I'm telling you, these guys are funny. They also hated one another. In fact, the Gormy-Durf feud, or as Durf would prefer, the Durf-Gormy feud, is one of the defining characteristics of the golden age of silly bwahas. Not only would these two not share the same bill, they wouldn't even perform in the same cities. Back in the golden age of silly bwahas, you were either a Durf city or a Gormy city. And then one day, the impossible happened. It was announced that Gormy and Durf would be appearing together on the same program, a gala memorial service commemorating the 30th anniversary of the death of the Swamp King himself, Flink. Remember Flink? Immortalizer of the 52nd rule of acquisition, never ask when you can take? It turned out that both Durf and Gormy were rabid Flink fans. You see, Flink gave Gormy his first break, playing a cabin boy in one of Flink's last films, Swamp King at Sunset. And everyone knows Durf was married, briefly, to Flink's 8th wife. So, Gormy extended the hand of friendship to his old foe Durf and suggested they bury the hatchet and appear together for the sake of Flink and the potential of the biggest box office gross in memorial service history. Gormy even went so far as to promise Durf that he could be the closing act. Well, to the surprise of everyone, including probably Gormy, Durf accepted. It's said that more Ferengi paid to see the live transmission of the Flink tribute than paid for any other event in Ferengi history. And though the Swamp King remained a popular figure, even in death, everyone knew they were turning in to see Durf and Gormy share a stage for the first time. So, imagine the shock that reverberated across Ferenginar when Gormy stepped out on stage dressed as Durf's beloved Schlork the Stuttering Vulcan. As Durf looked on in horror, Gormy proceeded to do Durf's entire act. Gormy had planned this moment for years, secretly studying recordings of Durf and waiting for this moment to strike.
It's not logical.
As the audience convulsed in laughter, Gormy stripped off his Schlork suit to reveal his Clang costume and proceeded to run through a brilliant rendition of the incontinent Klingon, concluding his act with the newly brilliant line,
I will kill you where you stand, but it's not logical.
This caused people all over Ferengi to soil their own undergarments from hysterical laughter. Gormy stepped off the stage just in time to see Durf being taken away by Emergency Medical Services, Incorporated. Gormy later admitted that he never even liked Flink. Durf never performed in public again. Gormy had gotten the last laugh by remembering the 76th rule of acquisition. Every once in a while declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies. And you can profit by remembering its corollary. The important thing is to always keep your opponent guessing, which leads to the corollary of the corollary, the 85th rule of acquisition. Never let the competition know what you're thinking. Which takes us to a classic Ferengi joke. How can you tell when a Ferengi is thinking? Give up? You can smell the wood burning. Well, I can tell you're not getting this. So much for the golden age of silly bwahahas. Rule number 82. Stop pretending to laugh, if you ever started, and stop whatever else you're doing. This is important. I don't care if you are in the middle of umoxing yourself. Pick up the box this audiobook came in. Take a good look at the front, at the back. Open it up. Close it up. Then hold it out from you at arm's length and observe this perfect summation of the 82nd rule of acquisition. The flimsier the product, the higher the price. Rule number 97. This is the only rule ever coined by Grand Nagus Unz, also known as Unz the Invisible. Supposedly, Unz dedicated his whole life to profit, focusing on it to such an extent that everything else in his life dropped away. As the story goes, Unz never ate, never drank, never slept, spoke to no one, and saw no one. According to legend, he spent every hour of his life covertly manipulating and controlling the Ferengi economy. How he achieved this remains a bit of a puzzle. After all, by the time he died, it was said that no one had spoken to him for over 70 years. In fact, there are some Ferengi scholars who claim that Unz never existed. They believe that for this entire reign, Ferenginar had no Grand Nagus at all, and that this rule is a part of an elaborate cover-up designed to make people believe in Unz. Still, other Ferengi believe Unz never died and is still controlling the Ferengi economy to this day. The no-Unzers and the eternal Unzers are so violently opposed to one another that any written statement siding with one or the other invites immediate and deadly reprisal. But, dead or alive, real or imaginary, you gotta admit, if you're a Nagus, you're laughing all the way to the divine treasury. So, valid or not, we present to you what is sometimes called the 97th rule of acquisition. Enough is never enough. Rule number 99. Enough is never enough. I remember when I was a lobling and how special adults made me feel when I first uttered the word mine. That was a special moment. Just as profitable was my realization about the meaning of trust, which I captured in an essay that I wrote as a second-year student at the Hopawup Academy for Young Loblings. I saved it. Trust by Quarky, son of Keldar. Once, I loaned my brother Rom my Marauder Mo action figure. He lost the plasma whip. Now my Marauder Mo has no whip. If the Klingons attack, he will be defenseless. Not only that, but the resale value of my action figure has been severely compromised. I trusted Rom. Once, I told my father where I kept my birthday latinum. Now it's gone. He took it. I trusted my Fafa. Once, when I was a first-year student at Hopawup Academy, I agreed to do the economic theory homework of Blork, son of Blout. But I did not insist on payment in advance. I still have not received my fee, even though I have sent Blork regular bills and he's accruing interest at an alarming rate. I may have no recourse but to hire a collections agent. I trusted Blork. Once I showed my friend Goem how to omox himself. He told my Moogie on me. She was angry. She put numbing ointment on my ears for a month. I didn't have any fun for a month. I trusted Goem. Once, you asked me to stay after school and polish the desk monitors. You left me alone in the classroom. You thought your things were safe inside your locked desk, but they weren't. I'm a very good lockpick. Inside, I found some very disturbing pictures of you. You were in a frock room, talking with fully clothed women. You were even letting them talk to you. You are a very sick Ferengi and a danger to society. But I'm young and immature enough to overlook that. As long as you pay me 3 slips of latinum per month for the duration of my stay at Hopawup. You trusted me. Trust is bad. As you can see, even as a young lobling, I understood the 99th rule of acquisition. Trust is the biggest liability of all. By the way, the teacher gave me an A for that paper.